want to welcome everyone here tonight. Sorry that's really loud. I have a loud voice, so I apologize for that. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come to our District 2 meeting. We're really excited to have tonight our mayor and the heads of each department from the city with us. At this time, I'm going to turn the time over to Mayor Kaufusi, who has a presentation, and then we'll take questions and answers.
Thank you, Chair Hill, and welcome everybody. We're excited about this new district program, and I see so many friends out here. And we appreciate you giving of your time, and to come after you've probably all had hard or long days and give us an hour means a lot to us. This is a special, that's actually, and the directors here are going to be like, Mayor, but I do love this. It's my favorite part of the job. It's getting out in the community and engaging with the citizens. I mean, you can ask me the worst question in the world and I will not change that point of view. I love engaging with the citizens. So this is going to be a fun evening. Let me just tell you how we're going to do it a little bit to give you a little bit of an outline. We're going to start it right now, and we're going to do a video first, and then I'm going to do a brief presentation. Oh, actually, before that, the head honchos have got to introduce themselves. So I'll have them each introduce themselves, and then I'm going to do a little presentation that will engage all of them. And I am then going to take the questions that you submitted, and thank you for submitting those, and we will answer those questions at that time. Should we happen to hit 7:15, I'm going to do a hard stop at 7:15, because in our last neighborhood meeting, we didn't have time to do Q&A, and boy, the neighbors let me have it. They're like, Mayor, we wanted you to keep going, we wanted it. And so I'm going to stop at 7:15 and open it up to Q&A for all of us. And if we have not answered your question, we will email it to the council and they will get it out to you, the ones that were sent in. I'm pretty sure we'll get to them, but just in case. So why don't we start, and I feel weird standing with my back to my directors. So why don't we start with the video? And this is just a fun little video we put together that just kind of does a couple of minutes of what's been exciting going on in Provo. And let me just say, this is a supply chain issue with this room. It's supposed to be super high tech and Zoom friendly and all these things, but supply chain has been an issue. That's why the speaker is coming out from up there and it's not very good. We're going to get better as soon as we get the parts. Do you want to try again, Rachel, or should we just?
Yeah, let me see. It just disconnected from the room, so let me disconnect again.
Share the spirit of your continued success.
So that was the end, and it had a great picture of the valley. And it was gorgeous and fantastic. But we totally understand. We are going to get this room right eventually as soon as the supply chain figures out the parts we need, and we'll be up and running. So hopefully by your next meeting, fingers crossed, that you'll come in and it'll be a whole different experience. But we don't care, right? We're flexible and we just roll with it. It did talk, I want to just point out something that we've done as a city. We decided to get our minds around what is it we stand for and what do the citizens expect out of us. So what we did is we did a survey and said to the citizens, tell us, give us your feedback. How can I serve you better? How can we do better as a city? So when we talk about the 4 Provo pillars, this is basically, well, it actually is what we heard from you. And I like to call it my report card, because this is where I have to be held accountable to you. I am the mayor, but I know this seat is not my seat. The mayor's seat is your seat. I know I just get the privilege of a little window of time to serve and do all the good I possibly can. And someone else will take my place, right? But while I'm here, we're gonna work fast and furious and think 30 years out, what are we gonna do that makes the city better and quality of life better and engagement better, not even better, but just exceptional. And that brings me to just a little side note. For the first time, we put together a Provo city mission statement. I felt like something was missing from the city. It was such an engaging and fun opportunity for me to pull the mayor's staff together and say, let's come up with a mission statement. And boy, it was, I mean, Wayne can attest. These guys are like writers. They are on these notepads, writing these lengthy. And finally, after, was it almost 2 hours wait? I said, so this is where we stop, everybody, because I appreciate all of these lengthy paragraphs of Provo and who Provo is and what we want to attain. In the next 10 minutes, I want a mission statement up that is less than 8 words. Oh, you should have seen their faces. They're just like, are you kidding, Mayor? You've got to be kidding me. I said, no one's going to remember anything longer than 8 words. This has to be something that every single employee has in their mind and can be held accountable to. Lo and behold, we hit that. We came up with exceptional care for an exceptional community, and we adopted our first Provo mission statement that is, I mean, the directors have been, but they're all my really good friends, but they have told me the employees are loving it. It's short, it's succinct, it's who we are. You are exceptional people and you do deserve exceptional care, and that's my job to make sure you get it. So back to my report card. So this is what I call my report card. I am accountable to you. So these were the 4 main pieces that we received back from the public that they wanted me to do better on and focus on. And I took that challenge and I am doing it. So our first pillar, and as I talk about these projects and things I'm working on with this huge, amazing city organization, if the director is here, I'm going to have them speak directly to it. So our first pillar is welcoming. And right out of the gate, Provo Parks and Recreation, I'm going to let Scott, the director of the Parks and Recreation, which is the #1 gold medal Parks and Recreation program in the nation. I can't believe it, but it's just, it's so amazing. And it's Scott, right? He is an amazing leader and inspires his staff every day. So Scott, would you speak to the Parks and Rec, the Regional Sports Center, and the Provo City Hall? Because on top of Scott's responsibilities, I just pulled him in one day and said, hey, we're going to build a new public safety building in City Hall, and I want you to be the project manager. And he looked at me like, come on, Mayor. But I told him, you aren't going to be housed here. You just built an amazing recreation center. I need your help. And he did not even bat an eye. He's such a wonderful leader and just said, I'll take it, Mayor. I'll help you. And so he went to bat on this. So Scott, basically this whole banner, except the last one I'll speak to.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it was something. Isn't it amazing that the best in the nation is in Provo, Utah? It's something to be really proud of. And I'm really careful to say, we know we're not perfect, but there was an outside, the gold medal award in our industry is like the Academy Awards for ours. And it's an independent assessment in competition with a lot of communities. But after winning it, everybody asked, well, how does another department achieve what we had? And I go, you've got to have Provo citizens. You got to have a commitment to an active, healthy community to be able to create what has happened here. So it is something that we came back from Nashville where we received the award, and we shared it immediately with our neighbors in Provo. And if you walk into any one of our facilities, you'll see that we proudly display Best in Nation and the Gold Medal Award in every one, because now, if you can imagine, as somebody that is working with a department like I am, and it is all my team, the mayor just doesn't know how weak of a leader I am. But it is my team that just does tremendous things all the time. But when you walk in, it sets the standard now. Because we have this strange idea that Provo citizens deserve the absolute best. And that drives us every single day. Going down that concept is the new regional sports park out on the west side. It's a 100-acre complex with 21 soccer fields and working with a citizen fundraising group, 45 pickleball courts. So this will be a regional complex for these two sports. Right now, we have 330 teams in Provo playing on 11 soccer fields. When we sign up over 3,000 kids for soccer, just in our programs. These are not the competitive leagues. And we have to cut registration off because we don't have places for kids to play. So we knew we needed more fields. We have converted every flat neighborhood field we could into a sports field, which isn't the most efficient way to do it, but that's what we've done to survive. But we took this local need and then converted it into a regional, to where if you have had a kid in a sports program, especially one in soccer or a flat field like lacrosse and all that, you've never hosted a tournament in Provo. You have traveled to every other city, which raises the expense, and your organization has never been able to host. We'll be able to host things now, and we'll be able to bring people to Provo with the regional sports park. It's a unique element to where Parks and Recreation combined with economic development. Keith Morey is right over here. And we combined right from the start on the first presentation. And it really is a concept that everybody sitting here and here is part of Provo's economic development. And that's exactly where this partnership came from, to be able to attract people. It will attract $40 million of spending every single year in Provo, in our community, and most of it in retail, restaurants, and hospitality, all things that were hit pretty hard during the COVID pandemic. And so this is a way for our community to recover and give some of those industries that really stuck with Provo through a difficult time.
Scott, can you give us an opening date?
You bet. So we will be working this year, getting all the infrastructure underneath the ground, getting utilities. We will be putting sod down on I think of the total count, it's about 60 acres of sod when you take the parking lots out of the 100 acres. And then it will be operational in fall of next year. And then we'll kind of work our way out of the complex, working from north to south. The mayor gave me a blessing when it was, when she asked me to be in charge of this beautiful building. I have had a little bit of construction experience here, starting from the Covey Center for the Arts, working with the Peaks Ice Arena and its conversion after we took it over. The Recreation Center was also a project of mine. So I had a little bit of experience in there, but who has experience in building a city hall? And what a collaborative effort with the talent here. But rare is the opportunity that you get to work with the heroes in your organization, police and fire, to be able to build a beautiful building like this. If you'd seen the conditions, especially our police department at that time that they were working in, literal janitorial closets were turned into offices. And this, if we want an excellent city government and an efficient city government, then a facility like this is a requirement. And we appreciate the citizens every single day for voting for this complex and taking our city to another level. So really exciting times, both in my department's operation and in the city's operation. And I just really appreciate the true talented room, and that's our Provo citizens. Thanks, Mayor.
So after, you can come up and look at these because it's hard to see them, right? But at the bottom of this one is one that we're really excited about. It's the July 1st, BYU will be joining the Big 12. Why is Provo excited about that? This is my theory. And I've been in that football world for a little while. And I'll just tell you, when you travel to an away game, my first impression is not the football game the next day in the stadium. My first impression is the city we enter into for the game. And so here we are getting ready to jump into this new adventure with BYU. We're a college town and BYU is our college. So we embrace that. We are going to embrace jumping into the Big 12 on July 1st with a forward-looking campaign of first impression. Come on, let's put our best foot forward. We are going to really take it up a notch because we will be the first impression for these huge teams that apparently, as I'm in these meetings with the commissioner, they just travel massively. I mean, we're already in meetings about where are we going to pull the tailgaters that come. I mean, Provo, we're kind of okay with that, but apparently these schools it's a no joke thing. So it is going to have an economic impact on us, which is a positive. And they will be here for the majority, probably 48 to 72 hours. And Provo City will be their first impression. So I take that personally as the mayor. I've reached out to the other mayors. We are going to really step it up and welcome these folks to our town. All right, the second pillar, so after welcoming, is our safe and sound. Our first one on this is one that Scott just talked about, the Provo City Hall, the state-of-the-art public safety headquarters, and it's crazy. I mean, it's already winning awards and accolades. The 2022 Award of Excellence Building Industrial Division Project. That's a huge award, and Provo City snagged that with this beautiful public safety and city hall building. After that, let's move to the fire stations. Chief Miguel is an amazing chief, and I'm not sure if you're aware, he's on the bad list. I'm just going to say it. For some reason, after 40 years, he's decided to retire. His wife is like, enough, come home. And I'm like, I feel horrible. I tell him all the time, it's just, my heart is aching. I told him, don't make me cry tonight, because yesterday I wore waterproof mascara when we made the announcement. I did not wear it tonight. So I'm going to turn the time over to Chief Miguel and let him talk about the 3 highlights on our safe and sound work.
Thank you, Mayor. There is no way that I can adequately express the experience that I've had here in Provo. This is such an exciting time in Provo, and I have been so blessed to, for the last 6.5 years, been your fire chief. As you know, just right down the street from many of you, as part of this project, we built fire station number 2, first fire station that we have built in almost 25 years. I don't know how well you remember the old fire station, but it's a little bit of an upgrade. Absolutely a wonderful facility, and I want to echo Scott's gratitude for the trust that you put in us as your leaders in Provo City to allow us to build this facility and allow us to work in the environment that we now work in. There's one more piece of this whole project that is going to be built, and if you came in from the east, you probably saw the building being knocked down. And fire station number 1 is being rebuilt right on the corner of 1st South and 3rd West. They just finished the demolition. They've got some compaction to do, and then we're fortunate enough we have the funding to get started with a new fire station number 1, and we're very grateful for that opportunity. And then this also has great interest to this district. 2 years ago, we started a wildland urban interface program. And that program was designed to do really 3 things. It was designed to educate our residents that live up along the bench of the risks of wildfire. The second one was to help us to teach you what you can do to make your home more fire safe. And the third one was to help you remove some of the fuel that is up there. The fuel is in places very thick, and while there are 2 or 3 months of the year where that is a great concern. And so we will again be in your neighborhoods, and we'll be we have for the first time we have a fuel mitigation or fuel reduction crew, 2 crews actually, that will go out and help people clear out their yards, and as you clear out your own yards and put it outside, we'll come and we'll chip it and get it off of your street for you. But it's tough kind of to talk about this when we got 9 feet of snow sitting up on the mountain. But it is, in my opinion, it is the most significant risk that this community has 3 or 4 months out of the year. Because I mean, we've all seen it in the news, how wildfire sweeps through communities, and the conditions just have to be right. It has to be dry, it has to be hot, and the wind has to be blowing. And that's a pretty common occurrence here in Provo. So we're grateful for the inception of this program, and you'll see much more about that. And if you have any questions about any of it, all you have to do is call the fire department. And then, well, we talked about Station 1. So anyway, I want to echo Scott's comments about the gratitude that we have, and also I believe, and I can be somewhat of a judge of this. I've been in 3 different fire departments over 40 years, and I will tell you that there is none better than the Provo Fire Department. And that comes from, first of all, they're very, very good at what they do. But most important, they care a great deal about you and about your safety and about this community. And so from us to you, thank you so much for being able to serve you.
Thanks to you. We have a piece on Fire Station 2 that is my favorite part, that I know he's going to be so mad he skipped over this, because we had a lot of discussions about this. Fire Station 2 has a community room. It is free to you to use. It is amazing. And Fire Station 2, the firefighters that manage that were so gracious to allow me to put in this community room, because they have to pretty much manage it. I mean, they're so nice. You call and reserve it for free if you're a Provo citizen, and do your event. They'll set up, they'll clean up, they're engaging unless they're off on a call. But that community room, I encourage you to use it. It is there for you. And again, at no cost, we want you to use that community room. That's what it's built for, because we appreciate you and all the support you've given us. Let's jump over to economically vibrant. Again, it taps the regional sports park, because as Scott mentioned, it's going to be millions and millions of dollars. If you don't know where this is at, has anyone gone out to a new airport? Raise your hand if you have. Just like, I can't even talk about it. It's like a child for me. But you come out of the new airport, and if you were to, where you stop before you jump on Lakeview Parkway, if you look kitty corner, that's where that regional sports park is, just right across the street, kitty corner, just so you can kind of get your bearings on it. Something that's really exciting is the new Target, the super Target that's coming to Provo. It's so interesting because the Target in Orem, where if we're not using our BYU Target, is what Target calls it. I called it a mini Target and they were offended. So I'm sin forgiven, and it's the BYU Target down by Macy's, but it's little, right? But it does really well. And I remember when I cut the ribbon on that, I told the heavy hitters from Target, I said, you're going to see Provo needs a super Target. We love Target. It is where we want to be. That is, you just wait. And sure enough, we have exceeded their expectations just with our BYU Target over by Macy's. So this is really exciting. The Target in Orem is 100,000 square feet. The one in Spanish Fork is, I think, going to be even smaller. Ours is going to be 138,000 square feet. So it is going to be no joke. And we are really excited. It'll have the grocery component. I mean, I don't know, ladies, but sometimes when I'm super stressed, I don't need to even buy anything. But just to get a cart and go up and down the aisle is so soothing. There is something about it, I'm just gonna say. And so now we will be able to have this gorgeous, beautiful target to go to. So on top of economically vibrant, our Provo Airport. And on that, you'll see it says the Provo International Airport. And you're like, what is she? She's crazy. What is she saying? She just cut the ribbon on that thing in August. So proud of that airport. We were able to cut the ribbon on that with zero debt and not a dime out of your pockets. Crazy enough, we haven't even been open a year and we have already hit our capacity. I'm going to have Dave Decker, my public works director, just speak a little bit to the airport. And this, again, I tell my people, let's swing for the fences. Our goal in the next 3 years is to land the Provo International Airport component. And we are almost, like, I'm not going to say that, but we're going to get there.
Thank you, Mayor. I think first I want to kind of mimic what some of the other department heads have said and express some appreciation, especially to Mayor Kaufusi, the city council, and both past and present. They have done a great job in supporting public works in the airport. Let me first emphasize really the main component of the airport that the mayor talked a little bit about. The fact that we were able to, and this came actually directly from the mayor's office, a mayor and her deputy mayor really started the fund finding for the airport. They were able to find several sources. We ended up putting about 6 sources of money together to fund the entire airport. And it really came together quite quickly. I was a little bit surprised how we were able to find funding to put the airport together. Most of you know we have 2 carriers. We have Breeze and Allegiant Airlines right now. We are catering to several other, we call them legacy carriers, kind of the major carriers. Both Breeze and Allegiant have already committed to fly international flights, but we need to do a little bit of an upgrade. We've been open at the airport for less than a year. It was open about the 1st of July, and they're already looking at international flights. As you know, if you've flown internationally, that requires customs. It's a little bit different when you return to the United States, you have to go through customs. And so there's a whole different package that we have to put together at the airport to accommodate customs. So we're looking at an expansion. Now, you need to understand the airport was actually designed for wings on both the north and the south end of the airport. We actually started knowing that we were going to likely expand the airport. So the architect that put the original plans together, we already have most of the design done for expansion. So we were kind of thinking ahead, knowing that this was going to come. I just didn't know it was going to come 9 months later. That was a little bit of a shock to me. But it's been fantastic as far as a response from the citizens. We're seeing not just Provo or not just Utah County, we're actually seeing a lot of traffic coming from Salt Lake County to fly out of Provo City. It's a lot more convenient. Our average time from the parking lot to the gate is about 12 minutes. So, Salt Lake can't really make that claim if you walk that. Anyway, it's a fantastic airport, and it's going to grow and it's going to be very successful. A couple of the things that we like about the airport is it keeps traffic off the road trying to travel to Salt Lake. That's one of the big components actually of the airport. One of the funding sources was from MAG, that's a transportation group. It stands for Mountain Lands Association of Government. And they actually supported the airport primarily for the fact that we kept traffic in the local area. Our catchment area comes mostly from Utah County, Wasatch County, Juab County. There are some people on the south end of Salt Lake County coming, but it actually decreases the overall traffic going to the Salt Lake International Airport. So that was one of the main factors. Just a little bit about the growth of the airport. We doubled the amount of parking from the old terminal.
Do anything.
We have doubled it again, and we have to double it again. So last weekend, it was actually President's Day weekend. It was a couple of weeks ago. We maxed out our parking. We have over 1,000 parking stalls. We had in our old terminal, we had 250. And we thought when we went to 500, we were going to be great. we maxed out our parking on President's Day weekend over 1,000 stalls. So we're kind of having to do, you can see construction is an ongoing element at the airport. Mayor, anything else?
No, that was perfect, and I'm running out of time, so I am just, so want to get your questions. I'm just gonna read the others. Our Freedom Commons is our new development over here, the first class office space built in downtown Provo, the first one in 12 years. They're up and running, it's gorgeous. The Provo Advantage, which is a partnership with my economic development director, where we are telling Provo's economic story. The total impressions we've had are 287,000 plus. The total reach is, what is that, Chief? I don't know what else is 1,117,000, and then total engagement 11,000. So we are pushing out our story of what's going on in Provo with the economy. And then again, the accolade that is just crazy amazing to me is the nation's best performing city 2 years in a row. It was really fascinating to go and be on a panel with the mayor from Houston, the mayor from Miami, the mayor from Denver, Colorado, and the mayor from LA. And I'm the only woman on the stage with these heavy hitters, and their security was no joke. And they were like, "Do you have security?" I'm like, "No, I just." I'm like, "That's my security." And they're like, "No, mayor." So they were like, "Yeah, you should have brought security." I was fine. But to be up on that stage with those major cities and them just, "Oh, how do you do it? We can't believe it." And again, it's all the employees. It is nothing I am doing. It's just these amazing folks and the amazing citizens that make Provo shine. Forward looking, again, we swing for the fences in this administration. We think big. I mean, I was born and raised here. I told my kids they are not allowed to leave. They probably will, maybe, but they'll come back because they love Provo as well. I want every decision we make to be significant. So 30 years down the road, we look back and we're proud of what we did. Our Preserving Provo campaign is a year-long initiative to educate and empower our community to preserve Provo's quality of life. We are pushing that out every chance we get. It goes out every month. We want you to sign up for it. Our website is 10 years old. We're going to improve our website. It'll better engage the citizens. Our wastewater treatment plant, I forgot I'm the sewer mayor. That's right. I went after this my first year as mayor, and our sewer system was almost at capacity, and it was not cleaning out the phosphorus that was adding to potential the algae breakouts. I mean, we needed to go to work and do better. I expected more from us, and we did. I mean, this is gonna, it's huge. The state is asking questions, and so it's an exciting, we're gonna just keep you in the loop on that one. The aquifer storage and recovery, another huge project. We received the largest grant. FEMA flew out here to Provo and awarded me a $50 million grant. Unbelievable. I mean, this is an amazing forward-looking process as well. It'll take 2 hours to explain it, but you are being taken care of. And I think that's all of them. So I want to make sure we answer your questions. I'm actually going to start the microphone down here with my director of legal and have him introduce himself and what department he's from and just pass it along. And then we'll start with the submitted questions.
I'm Brian Jones, the city attorney. Bill Pepperoni, director of development services, which includes economic development. I'm Troy Buchanan, chief of police.
I'm Dave Decker with Public Works.
Karen Gordon, I'm the library director.
Hi, Jim McGill with the fire department. Wayne Parker, I'm the city's chief administrative officer.
Scott Henderson, Parks and Recreation.
John Borja, the Director of Administrative Services. Last but not least, Travis Ball, the Director of Energy.
So we want to make sure that you know who's representing you. So when you have a problem and you shoot an email and you're hearing from Public Works, Dave Decker is the head of Public Works. When you have a police issue, Chief Beatty is your chief. And I'm just going to tell you, he's fairly new, but he is amazing. If you get a minute, spend some time with him. He's been in the police department for 25 years. and just an amazing person, and I couldn't be more proud to have him as our chief. Let's start with the first question. I believe we have Officer Wortman here. If you would come up, I think we're going to start with those questions. Is that the first ones? Yep, where to find crime stats. And so you have a couple of questions, officer. You have the crime stats, the police report data from the speed data trailer on Slate Canyon Drive, and then we'll move to my city engineer, Gordon Haight, for the next question.
Okay, so. Can you hear me off mic? Okay. So the crime stats are going to be on the, what the plan is now, that every week the crime stats I will send out to the district chair, and then we can go, it'll be similar, I sent a slideshow, but
Oh, yeah.
oh. So the crime stats will look similar to this. If we can go into the next page. So it'll be part one crimes, which is going to be all the major crimes. And it'll show from, and this particular one was from December, January, and February. And it's color coded. If you want to go to the next slide. Same thing, it'll be, this is more the like disorderly conducts, frauds, graffitis, a lot of stuff that we may see in our area. Graffiti is probably one of the more common ones. We can go to the next one. Same thing here. It'll just have different graphs to show each month. And then next one. Traffic accidents in our district. Before we go to the next slide, I know at the last meeting we requested a speed trailer on South Slate Canyon Drive. I was able to get one set up. It was there for 10 days. It was about 1,300 South Slate Canyon. Does anybody have a wild guess how many cars passed that trailer in 10 days? Just a wild guess. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. 30,583 cars passed it in 10 days. Now that is both directions. The trailer does record each direction. And since then, I know that there's been a request to get on 300 South. I was put on the list, and then apparently I got an email today that it has been set up. So, okay, is it where we want it, or do we need it moved one way or the other? Because I told them I would get a more exact address tonight, and okay, I told them I'd get a more exact address tonight because they thought it'd be a week or two, and then they got an email from me it's already out. I'm like, okay, so. So on this, I was able to break it down from that, the stats of the speed trailer. It showed how many vehicles were under the speed, how many vehicles were over the speed, the fastest speed recorded, which there was a lot of, not a lot, but there was quite a few in the 50 to 55 range. And then the minimum speed was 4 miles an hour. I'm guessing that was somebody pulling out the driveway. If not, hey, that's better safe than sorry, right? The average speed was about 28.2 miles an hour. And then the average speed over the speed limit was 34.29 miles an hour. And then it had, it was able to tell me, break it down to the busiest time of day, which is in the morning, probably people going to work. And then the time of day with the most speed limit was probably most people's lunch break, from 11 to noon. So I've got with Lieutenant Hudson here. He's over the Provo Police Department's Motors Division. We've been in communication with him and the motors. They're going to start these high times with a lot of speeders. They're going to start doing extra patrols there, run radar, trying to get those people slowed down. And then it breaks it down even more to vehicles traveling away from the trailer towards the trailer. And then once the trailer, now it's at 300 South. Once I get the speed stat from that, I'll send that out to you also. They shoot for about 7 days. We got lucky with that one. I don't want to say they forgot about it, but they really didn't have anywhere to take it. So they're like, do you mind if we just keep it there longer? Because if anything else, it probably slows people down if they see it, or it's flashing in their eyes, showing them the speed limit. So, that should be the last slide, I believe.
Yeah. think so. No, I think that was pretty much it on that one.
Is there any questions for me before I go back to my point?
We'll open it up and you probably will be called up again. Okay, this is the city engineer, Gordon Haight, and he's going to tackle the next question.
Right, thank you, Mayor. The question was about the Hillside Task Force, and I just wanted to give kind of a brief introduction of how that started. I've been with the city for about a year, and there were several incursions up on the mountain where people were grading inappropriately, doing the wrong things. And I got involved with those because we're over public works, over giving permits for people to participate and do those kind of things, and they weren't getting them. And we were working hard trying to solve these problems, but they weren't getting done because there was a lot of complexity with them. And so there was a group that was formed, Conserve Utah, met with the mayor and said, hey, we're concerned about these hillside cuts not getting repaired, what's happening. And so the mayor brought in a lot of these, almost everybody here on this front row and myself, and we started talking about what was the problem, why weren't they getting done? And it turned out everybody was working hard, from legal, public works, police, everybody was doing something, but it wasn't really well coordinated. And so out of that meeting with the mayor, we put together a task force that was just to solve the hillside issues. And so we meet every week until all the problems are solved. There's been about 8 different items that we've dealt with, and we're down to 4 that need resolution. So it's actually working, it's taking place. But again, it was great that a citizens group met with the mayor, got this ball rolling, because it needed that kind of coordination. I just wanted to run up one kind of example of how that happened. A few months ago, a house got built over a trail that leads up to the Bonneville shoreline. It was an access from a road. And how could that happen? What took place? And so the Conserve Utah came and met with us and said, we just lost this access to the Bonneville shoreline trail. What took place? And so we started looking into it. And the problem was it was prescriptive easement. It wasn't ever recorded. It wasn't identified. And so it didn't show up on the plat when it was recorded. It didn't show up in the building permit. The building permit was authorized. And so when we started looking at that and looking at all the accesses up to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, there's a lot of entities in the cities that works on these. And so the next thing we did is we, members of our GIS team met with the Conserve Utah, identified what they felt were the important accesses. We put together maps, gave that to the Parks Department. They're reviewing to make sure those are the ones they want to preserve. If they've missed any, that's going to be looked at, and we're going to identify those so we can have clear points where those are, so we can have the development services, the parks knows what we have, public works knows what we're going to maintain. To solve this problem, the water department owns property right adjacent to where that trail was cut off. They have agreed to allow a trail to be built on their property up to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. And so this spring, the Parks Department is putting back that trail access, and we'll have a permanent access there. So that just is kind of the complexity why every department has to be involved, and so what the Hillside Task Force is doing.
Now, you were great. Thank you, Gordon. All right. Is it time to cut it already? So let me just say the next 15 minutes are yours. If you would like us to continue answering the questions you submitted, we are happy to. Or if you'd like us just to email the answers to these to Chair Hall, we're happy to do that as well. It's your time. You tell me, Chair, what would you like us to do?
If anybody in the audience or online has a question, maybe we should open it up for that. Just stand up and give your name. And clearly we can report that.
Clearly, I don't know what's that, but I'm so grateful to be part of Provo. Donald Singer's my name. We have a lot of new housing in Provo, and with houses come cars, and with cars come traffic. And the traffic situation from up on the hillside where I live to anywhere is 3 or 4 times what it was when I first moved here 15. In fact, today, if we go to the Salt Lake Airport, we have to figure that it's going to take more time just to get to the freeway than to get to the airport. That's changed a lot. And what we see coming suggests that there's more problems ahead. And in particular, the intersection as we come down the hill, not the only way there is to come down the hill. There at the JCW, with that intersection there. Today, people aren't getting through, they're waiting to 2 or 3 lights. So I'm just curious, and we don't even have those people in these homes yet. Well, what's gonna happen when 1,000 new people come in with 2,000 more cars?
So he's talking about, as we call it, the Shopco, right? The old Shopco area that stayed lighted for quite some time, and thank heavens we got someone to come in, but they're coming in big. And I totally understand your feelings on this. I'm wondering, Bill, do you want to take this one? Because fall under his.
So you're right, growth is our biggest challenge, but it's also our biggest benefit. 70% or so of that growth is internal, it's our own kids. In that situation, you referred to it, the mix at River's Edge, where the used to be Shopco. The interesting thing about that is exactly what is taking place right now, what is being built. Just very recently, the state legislature has mandated cities to try to do exactly that. Cities that have got mass transit going through them, like the UBX line. There are stations throughout the UBX line, right? The state has now said all cities that have a mass transit like that, certain stations have to have a station area plan to encourage development to happen, just like what is happening at the mix. The encouraging thing about what's been happening in Provo is recently the state has come out and made mandates for cities to do, like encourage affordable housing, like the station area plans. And every mandate the state has come out with, the city of Provo is already doing it. That's been very gratifying. That's because of the leadership we have, the mayor, the city council members, who are very forward looking. They're constantly looking 30 years out. Yes, we have a lot of growth, but most of that growth is taking place in developed areas where there's the infrastructure. It's not taking place out in the perimeter of the city where the single family homes are. So the growth has been tremendous, but at least it's gone to responsible areas and areas that hopefully in the long run will reduce traffic generation because they're very walkable areas.
And the chair gets to decide.
We've got another question.
Perfect.
Joy McMurray, Wasatch neighborhood. As you know, one of the very exciting things happening in our neighborhood is the rebuild of Wasatch Elementary that we're very excited about. I went to Wasatch. Yay, it's a new school, the new public school. All the persons here. But we're really excited about that. So about a year and a half from now, our students will be moving into the new somewhat castle-like school, which is very exciting. My question regards the old Wasatch land, where our neighborhood has very close ties with BYU. So many of us, we love BYU, and would love to see our relationship, our neighborhood's relationship with BYU really be a model of community relations. We ought to be friends. We ought to support each other. I don't know what their plans are for that land. I would hope that they would choose to build something that is in scale and in harmony with the neighborhood and help us support each other in our good desires. One specific question for Provo Parks, probably. There are, if I understand the property line correct between Provo and BYU's land, we have 3 playgrounds all along that line. You know that Kiwanis Park is a cherished and heavily used aspect of our neighborhood that serves many communities. I'm curious, the property line goes straight through those playgrounds, and I just want to make sure that that's on the city's radar, that anything we can do to preserve those playgrounds and that green space, that's on the city's mind. I'm just curious what thoughts you have on that already. I don't know, of course, what's going to happen to the land yet.
So we work really close with BYU, and so we've been in the game for a long time. I'll actually have Wayne speak to the BYU component, and then I'll have Scott speak to the park.
Well, thank you. The land exchange between BYU and the school district actually involved a component of the city. Kay Jensen knows the entire backstory. We spent hours and hours and hours in meetings together. So there are a couple of constraints on the Wasatch property right now. One is we have a detention pond there that provides stormwater protection during runoff periods or heavy rain. We are working with BYU on a couple of aspects of that. They would obviously like to shrink the footprint of that detention pond, part of which means we could go deeper in the ground, which we have room to do. They could also do detention upstream. And I think as we've been talking to them, they have long-range plans to eventually replace Wynot Terrace with some other kind of married student housing. Not sure exactly what that is, but they could build detention on that property, which would lessen the need for the detention ponds at Wasatch and in Kiwanis Park. And so we're working on that. For the time being, BYU is telling us their only intent right now is to put parking on that spot. Now, again, I don't know how long that will last. It's no secret that we think BYU looks at a parking lot and sees a future building site. We get that. They're landlocked and they're growing. But for the time being, we think all it's likely to be is parking, particularly to support the music building and their evening activities. And so that's all we know about it for now. But we are working on some long-range strategies to make that property certainly more usable for the university and more helpful for us. Scott, on the playgrounds.
Thank you, and you're spot on the property lines. They go right through the playgrounds, and those playgrounds were school district utilized for their play and their recess and during that. So I think what we have to do and what we have to react to is we also put in a new playground as part of Kiwanis Park towards that central pavilion. So if those are not in the long-term use of BYU, then it's upon our department to respond with the neighborhood and get in and expand the playground offerings within the park. So we're going to be somewhat reactive working with our partners in BYU after we get a clear picture on their use for the site and if those playgrounds can be saved and moved to public use, and or then our department's going to have to react to that and enlarge and enhance our playground even further in the Kiwanis Park area. So it's a little bit story yet to be written.
Catherine Brawley in Wasatch neighborhood. I think it's great to have parking at that place. Could they dig down and not build up for the parking and then put a new creamery on the top level? The creamery, the all grocery store, and then that would be a great place. Wonderful that we're keeping in line with the state legislature about the high density housing, but that still brings the cars. So that question didn't get addressed necessarily. And so that the traffic thing, which is my question. I stop at red lights. No, I slow down at yellow lights. I stop at red lights and I drive the speed limit. Is there any way to police this more carefully so people start getting tickets that could lower all our taxes, because there are so many red light runners and so many speeders in the city and it's dangerous? And that's just my question. Could that be, could the law be enforced?
Thank you. And I'll just say, growing up, that was Carson's Market, and we shopped there all the time. My mom was really good friends with the butcher. He gave us great deals, but Chief will talk to the enforcement.
So when I look at the stats, we do enforce, and it does bring the, when traffic accidents are up, I know that citations are down. Right now, we're working on making sure that our patrol division has the manpower to be less reactive and more proactive. And we do an outstanding job of doing that. So specific roadways and a specific issue within those roadways, we have a team that's dedicated to work that, and they'll work it during, I call it cops on dots. So we have a crime analyst, they look at the stats, they look at where we have issues similar to the trailer that we put out, and then we dedicate those officers to that area to enforce.
What about on the email thing that we get?
drive the speed limit, stop red lights, just a suggestion, you know, because a lot of us read that, a big one.
It's being very. Yeah, being a little proactive on prevention. Versus I get that, and I think what we've done at the police department, she said I'm new. I am. But enforcing and being a police officer, I'm old, slow, and the wolves are after me. But that is something that I moved a officer, certified police officer as a public information officer to the street, and then hired a civilian, or we're all civilians, but a uncertified police officer as the public information officer. I think she's amazing, and she'll push out that message. And what's nice is our whole mission is to work with citizens to improve quality of life. It requires this kind of activity from you to let us know where we need to be, along with those stats, to put the cops where we need them, and to improve the quality of life.
Maybe stop that in the sea, you can get up.
I see that with traffic accidents. So it's I wish we were able to do that. Any other questions?
We have maybe one. So I'm from the Wasatch.
Okay, you have to say your name.
McKay Jensen, I'm from the Wasatch neighborhood, but in the District 2 meetings, there's been a little bit of a feeling in sort of State Street South, in our south entrance. And we see the sports park in the west, and we have all the construction of BYU, and we see the mix. And this little neighborhood down here, people just don't know what's the plan. Is there anything is there a vision for that part of the neighborhood to not feel, I guess, forgotten? Because that's been a little bit of the mood in the room that BYU and the neighborhood around the temple and mix and things we hear about in the airport, and that one doesn't get talked about. Is there anything that we could talk about in that area of section of District 2?
That's a great question. That was one of your questions. We are prepared. We know, we hear you. My economic development director is going to speak to that.
I'm so relieved I get to talk, because I was told I was supposed to make my comments do interpretive dance. So it's not. I'm Keith Moore. I'm the economic development director. I started in January of 2023. So I think that's a great question. One of the things that we're doing to address that is focusing on all the gateways in Provo to determine what the future land use should be, what the opportunities are, how we can do something to put our best foot forward, so as people come into our community, they see that. I think you're going to see that that area coming off of I-15 really begin to change. We've got a lot of interest on the west side of that. It's some commercial property, which I think will be a big draw, and hopefully we can make that happen in the very near future. But then going east along that same street, with all the stuff that's happening with the Northern Medical College, the Rocky Mountain University as well, they're investing very heavily in that area. You're seeing a lot of improvements going around the golf course. The Tim Tech Park is really developing as Rocky Mountain expands and takes over more spaces. So I think you're going to see a lot more energy. The East Bay Shopping Plaza all along there was recently purchased last year by a new large investment company from back east, who has a significant amount of money that they want to reinvest into that area and bring new tenants in, and refresh some of the tenants that are there, and build more out parcels there along University. So, I mean, that's not directly there along South State Street, but all of that is bringing a lot of energy, I think, to that part of the community, and will focus a lot of attention on what the opportunity is there, and hopefully give us the chance to evaluate how we can make city improvements to create a great corridor and entrance to Provo City there. Does that answer your question?
No.
South State Street as well. And that, again, that's one of the gateway entrances. So we're talking about that when we think about how do we evaluate what those entrances to Provo City look like. There's been a lot of questions about how do we get, for example, grocery on South State Street, and we're very focused on trying to make that happen. It's been very interesting to us because when you talk to the lead commercial brokers in the state who deal in the grocery store market, they'll tell you that this is the first time in 30 years where there isn't a single grocery store, plaza or area that's scheduled to be built in all of Utah this year. And they're not really sure why. There's just a real hesitancy within that market to take the risk with rising inflation costs and construction costs. So most of the grocers, national and local, are just kind of pausing and making use of the facilities that we have. Having said that, the fact that we've got a Target coming is a big deal to us. And even though that's not on South State Street, it eases some of the demand and the need for that area. And we're just hopeful that over time, we can find a way to find grocery store amenities for that South State Street corridor. Two problems that I think we face in Provo. Any grocer that's looking at a market looks at the number of housetops, and although we're talking about traffic and how difficult that is, they really are going to need to see more rooftops in that area before they think seriously about expanding. The old Allen's grocery store site, the property owner that owned that tried desperately to encourage Harmon's or Associated Foods to backfill that with another grocer, and could not find anybody that was willing to do that, even though you had an existing location that all of us, I think, me and all of you would have said is a great location for grocery. So until we get more rooftops in that area, that's one problem. The second problem that they look at very seriously is the average household income. And what they're looking for is they're looking for income levels that are high enough that people buy the price point items that a grocer will make money off of. So the kind of grocer that's thrifty, that is going to the store to buy a half a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread, is not how they're making their money. So they're looking for higher income families and individuals that are filling up the grocery cart once or twice a week with expensive cheeses and higher end items. And so until we get those levels, those income levels up, it's just a difficult argument to make. So those are all things we're focused on. To that point, the fact that the Northern Medical College is being built brings in people that hopefully come away with a higher education level and want to find ways to stay in that level. It's those kinds of reinvestments in education and bring professionals into our community that I think will start to turn that paradigm around a little bit.
And I'm just going to piggyback on that. When you think of a gateway, what do you think of? To me, if I had my way, we would have a beautiful lit waterfall at every gateway, a welcome to Provo, something phenomenal, and something that is the same at each gateway. So when you enter, you know it. I was just talking to a friend, and coming out of Provo Canyon, that welcome Provo sign, I remember whose Eagle project that was. I mean, it's not great, but I will tell you something. Your city council is all about this. They are completely engaged in this and have made it one of their priorities, which for me is a huge win for the city. We're doing a study. They're willing to put money behind it, which is exciting. And we need to get there. Provo's better than what our gateways signify. It's just, we've got to get that figured out. And as I said, the city council is engaged. They're going to look at it. They're going to embrace this. I expect in the next couple of years, we'll figure something fabulous to go at the gateways. Wouldn't you agree, Council Member Henley? Yeah. All right, we've taken our time. I'm just going to say again how much I appreciate being allowed to come once a year and bring in your directors in the city that run the city and make all the great things happen so that you can see their faces and you can get your questions answered. If your questions weren't answered again, we will email the answers out so that you will get them. I also just want to end by saying being the mayor of Provo is a true honor. It's an honor I don't take lightly. I'm gonna not get emotional because it's where I was born and raised and I love this community. I will also say thank you for trusting me to hold the seat for this window of time. It does mean the world to me. And again, I couldn't do it without these amazing people up here in front. And that's where all the accolades need to go, is not me, but to these folks that really make the magic happen. And also, I just want to mention, because I couldn't do this job as a mother with a huge family and all of that. My husband's here. I saw him. He's very shy. And he shows up at all my night events, which is so kind, right? I don't ask him to. He's out there. He'll be embarrassed in talking about it, but I'll just say I wouldn't be able to do this job without having a supportive husband that quietly encourages me and tells me to keep fighting and going, and sometimes tells me to slow down. Where do you get your energy? But again, I love my job, and because of my husband, I'm able to serve you well. We are done with our share, our part of the program. So these folks have been here since 7 a.m. So I'm going to say, go home. Everybody, please go home. And we will get your questions answered, and we'll email them to whoever you would like us to. And if there's more questions, send them in. We work for you. I mean, we really do. So let us help you and serve you. All right. Thank you. And directors, go home.
I think they all deserve, Mayor and everyone at Hillside, one more round of applause. Giving up their time. So we really appreciate their taking extra time out of their day to be here tonight to help us understand some of the issues our neighborhoods and districts are facing. Our next item is a land use item. And yeah, Dolen and Bill Peroni, do you want to address this issue? The land use.
Grab the slide.
Yes.
All right, no, we're gonna do we have an aerial photo? I forgot my laser pointer, which is unusual. Planners usually never go out without a laser pointer. So this is down State Street, in a commercial zone, commercial manufacturing zone. There's single family homes in an R18 zone. The white home that's 734 has been using this back portion of the commercial lot as part of their yard space. So it's been used that way for many years. So now they want to actually own that piece and zone it residential, because we don't like to have a commercial zone being, we don't not like to have commercial zoning in a residential lot. So this will be rezoned about 4,300 square feet. Right here would be rezoned and added to that lot at 734. So the zone changes from commercial to residential, just so that home can have a bigger yard. Okay. The home ends up with a lot that's almost a half an acre, just under half an acre. And the area being rezoned is about 4,300 square feet. That's all this is. No intent to subdivide. Is the property owner here? So if you have any questions, the property owner is here. I'm sure she'll be happy to.
So, my name is Janet Dolen, and I'm in the Provo neighborhood. And my parents bought this land in the early 1950s. So it goes up to Utah Avenue, and they bought it even before that road was there. So they've been there for decades. And they've never used the commercial to go all the way back. It's always been just grass and garden and orchard, which it is still. And so we just wanted to make the line 10 feet from the big building. You can see right there, there's a picture that I took. And it would just go straight across. And there's a little child clubhouse right there in the orchard that my dad made. And we really want to keep that. He built it with lumber from his mountain property, and so it's really special to us. And we want to save that, and it will be used by the children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and we just want to keep using it the way it has been. So it won't impact the neighborhood at all, because it's always been.
use like that.
You notice where the house is located on the aerial photo, there's not even room to get a driveway past it to try to create a new house behind the house. So no, it is very unlikely it could ever be redeveloped.
There's another picture that shows. There you can see the back of the house.
Any questions about that?
Yes.
I was just gonna say,
Being very familiar with this, as we give my second opinion, that you won't notice it from the front of the street, you won't notice it from State Street. It will have no impact at all on the neighborhood, and I think it makes sense. It just really will not impact anybody at all.
And I agree with what Hannah just said, also because it's an unusual circumstance where generally people are asking to go from residential to commercial, but this time we're trying to go from commercial to residential. And so I don't know if any of the other executive board members have any concerns but I think we can support this change as a district. Do you have anything else to add? Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming tonight and explaining this zoning issue or the change. Sorry about that. Our next issue is about zoning as well. Is Abinadi here? Abinadi, would you like to come up? I, as the new chair of District 2, have gotten a lot of phone calls and emails about zoning compliance. A lot of the questions about parking, whether it's on Slate Canyon or I'm getting a lot of people in the southern east of 9th East who are complaining about parking issues from the apartment complexes on the west side of 9th East. They're now parking over on the east side and taking up homeowners parking on the street. And so a lot of this stems from illegal duplexing and issues with zoning. And so I've asked Abinadi to come and talk about the solution is the city cannot correct anything that they're not aware of. Okay, they've hired more zoning officers recently. I know Yater quite well. He works in the Provost neighborhood. I don't know all the other zoning officers, but I've worked with him in the past. And they can't correct something that they don't know about. And the only way they can know about it is if we as citizens tell them. Now, one of the concerns people have about turning in a neighbor or a zoning violation is they don't want to be known. So I've asked Abinadi to come talk to us about how to report zoning issues and how you can do that anonymously. Oh, sorry.
Before Abinadi jumps in, the comment was absolutely correct. That we can't fix something or correct something that we're not aware of. So your involvement in all of this is very important. But this code amendment that is kind of listed here that Abinadi has worked on, the code requirement has been in our ordinance for a long time, for many years. But the wording of it was difficult to enforce. So this amendment that Abinadi has worked on has simply been to tighten up that language to make enforcement more easy and more efficient. Okay, if you want to talk about the broader question or anything else, anyhow, that's fine.
I'm Abinadi Borja. I'm a code compliance officer for the city. This is me. Borja, B-O-R-J. So as far as a complaint is concerned, whenever someone from the city submits a complaint, resident, non-resident, doesn't really matter. We get the complaint submitted online or over the phone, which I know with calls from Yater. Yater is your code compliance officer, and so is Travis. Travis takes care of the north neighborhoods. Yater takes care of the south neighborhoods. Two great code compliance officers from our team. They will help and assist you with any complaints that you make through the portal, over the phone, in person, if you want to talk to them in person. But the way it works is that when you submit a complaint, and we get your information, the only reason we need your information is to give you a call back and report it to you if you'd like. So whether we know your name, whether we don't know your name, we come up to your house and say, hey, we noticed that your landscaping is not the greatest. You say,
Who called? Who turned me in?
it came anonymous. That's what I say every time. It came anonymous. We don't give out your information. We don't tell people it was your neighbor. 90% of the times, the neighbors are reporting them, but we never give out that information. It's protected. So whenever, if you see something, say something. Just like police say it all the time, for us, if you see something, say something. Because that's how we are able to help you out with quality of life, with feeling of being able to live in a place where you are truly happy. With yourself, with your families, with your neighbors, just in general in the city. Do you have any questions?
So I am curious about what constitutes a family. There was a house that was enforced on in my neighborhood, but they still have a couple upstairs and a couple downstairs, but that they identify as family, but the property owner is still benefiting as if it's a duplex, but it's a single driveway. So I'm curious, what a family is, and if you go back any of the properties that have been enforced upon, and then double check in a certain amount of time after they've come into compliance, if you check again.
Great question. So a family defined in our Provo City Code, you have to establish two things for a family. First of all, a head of household. A head of household is established as a parent-child, grandparent-child, or a spousal relationship, husband and wife. So if you can establish that in the home, then you can define a family. A family is defined as having that head of household. Say it's you, you're the head of household, and then anyone related to you. Parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews. That direct relationship to you and anyone that's related to you. So you can have up to 50 people, 100 people. It really doesn't specify the amount, but the relationship is specified. Does that make sense? And they live with you. So if you have a brother that's married, and he's living with you, you have your husband, that's the two families, but they're related to you, and therefore they can live there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what if it's a rental, does that go the same way?
It goes the same way. It doesn't need to be owner occupied. The head of household needs to be established to have multiple families by that definition.
There are limits on relatives.
Right.
Maybe third cousin, twice removed, but there are limits on what qualifies as a rental.
It was mentioned about the apartment complex, it was across the street from our neighborhood, and I know how you can submit, a single home or a single resident online. But what would your advice be in a situation where we have an entire apartment complex who clearly has brought in more vehicles than they were allotted? Does that make sense? What would your advice be to a neighborhood? It doesn't seem like a single individual that would, report that would get any type of response. Would we need to come together as a neighborhood and say, listen, we've got an apartment complex that probably, when it was built, was allotted 50 parking spaces, and they clearly have brought in 150 cars, which goes, to some of the older vehicles. What do we do when we have a property management company that has come into our neighborhood? Say they manage over 100 properties, and they have been very vocal about not complying with the vehicle limit. We know that they are bringing in far more vehicles than those houses are. What is your advice on handling that? I mean, if we were just we can't just report all 100 of their rentals. It's difficult, but that's been my concern is how can we say we've got a problem of significant
exploitation and dishonest behavior, and I don't know how best to address that.
So, parking enforcement is in the Development Services Department, which is the department we work in. Many of those, many of the newer projects that have been built on South State Street, I've asked parking enforcement to go out and monitor those and to document if there's spillover parking that's taking place. So we've actually been going out at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we do it at that time of the day because that's when maximum occupancy is going to be home. Doesn't do any good to go by at 2 in the afternoon, right? A lot of people are gone. So we go by it early morning hours or 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, something like that. If there's an area that seems to have a recurring problem, let us know and we'll go take a look at it. The problem we have is most of our streets in Provo, you can park on. You can park on for free. The problem we're having in some areas is the apartment complexes will charge for parking, so people would just rather park on the street where it's free. So that's causing us some problems. But we are monitoring many of these places, but if you see something that's a recurring problem, you don't have to call it individual cars, just say this street or this area or whatever is having a problem, and we'll go take a look. You know how to contact me. I'm looking at Sandy Lucia, who's over parking. She's very responsive too. This is a growing problem in the city. It's been a problem in the city for many years. When I was here as an intern 30 years ago, I was going out at 4 in the morning counting cars and parking spaces. And it's still a problem. I'm sorry for that. This gentleman asked a question during the larger meeting about the vision for South State Street. And one document that tells you what that is or describes what that is the Southeast Neighborhood Plan. There are people in this room who help work on that. That plan right there starts to express the vision for South State Street. As a result of that neighborhood plan, we designated South State Street as being equal as a design corridor. So then we adopted city ordinance, or the city council adopted city ordinance. It says these are the rules you have to live by as you develop along South State Street. So those are steps to try to upgrade the area. Largely, we're depending on redevelopment or development to make things happen. But we've tried to address South State Street through those documents, but it is an ongoing effort. What Mayor Kaufusi said about the gateways is absolutely true. We're working on a gateway plan right now. My department is, because the city council had that as a priority and commissioned that. So we're trying. We're not there, but we're trying.
Can I just ask, Mary Miller, just a real quick question. If it's an R110 zone, can a person decide to take a portion, whatever they own of that R110, and turn it into a storage lot?
No, there are very strict limitations on storage in the residential zones. I've been that more experienced than I am. But
How do we fix it?
report it and we'll go after for the storage.
Vehicle, we have what do you call it? Bang bang, crash them up. What's that called? Derby. Whatever, well, yeah, and no, we pay money. Demolition derby, there we go. We have those cars being stored on lots where homes once were that Mr. Holland's now taken down. We have 3 or 4 Winnebagos on the lot next to me, and vehicles that are not registered on the lot next to me. He doesn't own all those things. There are 11 vehicles parked on that. That is blight when you're coming up South State Street. Hell.
No, that's not permitted in an R1 zone. And now that we know about that, we'll get out on it.
Yes, so
Reserve that area.
Gator would be.
Gator's excellent.
So 2 things, we can talk afterwards. I'll give you my card, or you can let Gator know, and Gator will. Yeah.
But I will do that.
For sure. Yeah, I can do it. There was a.
Well, no, I was just agreeing with Mary Miller because she's been working with me in my neighborhood. It's south of the cemetery, just right along there and in there with cars, junk cars. It's not just spewing from the backyard, it's spewing in the front yard, 5 feet away from the sidewalk, just trashy. demolition, like she said, that's a good word for it.
And I don't,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, Harry, I don't want to take more of your time. I know you have other things. We have a zoning administrator, a secretary, and 6 full-time code compliance officers that are diligent working out on the streets. I have my own areas. Yater works on half of your district. Travis works on the north half of your district. Great code compliance officers, just like I said before. If you have anything, if you see anything, we don't only look at the specific properties that you have complaints on. We also look at the properties adjacent to them, properties around in the area. If they have anything that we need to address, we will address it. So.
I'm gonna ask you to stay for one more second. We took this off the agenda, I think, but there is I don't see it on there. There's gonna be a change in the wording on, in the code, which I think you alluded to, about trailers and things like that. Maybe you could, I know what that is, but maybe you could just explain that real quick since you mentioned it earlier.
The year has altered that. There's amendments. Go ahead.
Yes, so with
Not the year.
you're good. With boats, trailers, RVs. We're keeping it simple, keeping it clean, hoping to propose this amendment where if they're located in the front yard, that is a no. They would neither be placed in the side yard or in the rear yard. A lot of people like to place their RVs on the side yards. A lot of people like to put their utility trailers in the front yards, which is the most common thing that we see, utility trailers. That wasn't addressed before, but a lot of people and a lot of complaints that I've received in the past have addressed that. And a lot of people have let me know, hey, is there something more uniform that we could address on this? And so that's why this amendment is proposed to address that.
But that's unless they have an RV pad, correct? They can have an RV pad.
On the side yard, yes. So actually, the code does state that if you're gonna have a recreation vehicle, you should have a parking spot for it.
Because we have some trailers that they start on the side yard, but they're long enough, they go all the way to the sidewalk. So that would not be.
That depends on the location of the trailer. So the code right there would also address any corner lots. I do not know if yours is a corner lot or not.
No, I'm just thinking if they've parked an RV that's about the size of their house. That comes all the way blocking, you can't see the next person's house because it blocks the view and it comes all the way to the sidewalk. It's not on the sidewalk, but it's like a long driveway that they've parked RV on.
On their side, which shares the neighbors next door as far as the boundary is concerned, is that correct?
It's not on the neighbors, it's.
No, it's on the property, but it blocks the neighbor's view from going.
Well, yeah, you can't see the house from the street because the RV sticking out to the sidewalk.
Right, there is a section of code, we don't address it, it's more public works, but it's a clear vision area on the driveway where, and that's why we asked that the RVs, trailers and everything be put on the side yard, so that doesn't block the view, but they address that in the clear vision area. Good point.
Well, it's going on in my mind that we'll cover that. Thank you.
So, and that amendment is just clearing up some wording, and from how I understand it, so they can enforce.
Well, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I understand that, but again, the thing that that I was hoping we would discuss tonight would be that blighted issue where, you know, we have 2 tow yards in our neighborhood on the southeast gateway to the city. We have, you know,
We're gonna address
the blighted issue at another meeting.
Because we had the mayor here tonight and the heads, so we just kind of are running out of time. So we've had to take some things off of the agenda to accommodate that and push them back to the April 22nd meeting, which I do hope, by the way, so heartening to see so many people here tonight and those of you who are online, but I really hope you come out for the April 22nd meeting because we will be, 20th, sorry, wrong date. I've got another date in my mind, which is our next item. And I'm going to turn the time over to Kristina Davis. sorry about that, April 20th, please come because this one's going to, we need some public input on Slate Canyon. Some ideas for resolving the issues on Slate Canyon Drive specifically. So, Kristina, thank you. Rachel, do you have those slides?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And as you came in tonight, when you signed in for the meeting, you might have seen from the Slate Canyon Park, a survey that the Parks Department has. So if you saw that, we encourage you to fill that out. So a little background, this will be the 3rd year of the Slate Canyon Saturdays program. And in March, the Franklin neighborhood, District 5, had their neighborhood cleanup service project day. So for District 2, our neighborhood service cleanup day is April 22nd, and we call it Slate Canyon Saturday to bring the focus that we have a precious resource to protect. And everybody's effort in protecting it has astounded the city. You'll remember how many mattresses and old water heaters and old cabinets used to be discarded at Slate Canyon, and we would take dump trucks and pickup trucks of garbage out every year. But the last few years, with all the city's focus and the citizens' involvement, there's so much less trash. The second reason we have these Slate Canyon Saturdays is because park revenue is allotted based on priority. And to move up the park priority system, there has to be obvious input from the citizens. And while areas of the city activate their residents to combine energy, we haven't had a really great way to all work together and focus our energy. And Slate Canyon Saturdays gives us a way to show the city how much we care. So we hope that 2 things happen. First of all, that people come to Slate Canyon. There's 7 different projects under the direction of Provo City Parks and Recreation. So they have projects that they would like help with that saves them a lot of money on manpower, like refurbishing the bike skills course, boards on the fences that need repaired, an invasive species that's moving through the foothills up into the national forest land. So we have 7 different projects that we need volunteers to help us with there at the Slate Canyon Trailhead Park. Rachel, do you want to go to the next slide? But what we really hope is that everybody will do something on this day. So if you have something in your local immediate neighborhood that you would like citizens to work on. So in the immediate neighborhood where I live, there's a walking path and it gets overgrown every season with branches. So we've asked the neighbors right close to work on pruning and cleaning up that walking path. You might know of something right in your local neighborhood that needs done. We would like a lot of local projects. And if you'll email me at Kristina.neighbor.district2, we can help get the word out on what local projects need hands on this April 22nd day. So that there is a group right at Slate Canyon, but that's not every family wants to do that. Everybody does something, even if it's only cleaning the leaves out of the gutter in your storm drain area right in front of your house. So I'm telling you tonight what I've heard from Provo City, and I hope you'll pass it on to your neighbors. Of all of Provo City, the greatest flood risk for this spring with our excess snow melt is Slate Canyon 2 and 3. And they're actively working at Provo City to help the debris basins be able to accommodate the excess flow. But if our storm drain system is already full of leaves and debris, then we're that much reduced in our capacity. So if every resident in the Slate Canyon area was just to go out and clean the gutter and the storm drain on your local street, that would help a lot. So our hope is that everybody will do something on Slate Canyon Saturday. And we have these projects we're inviting you to participate with or to let us know what needs done in your individual area. The next two slides, Rachel, you can just go right past that. Yes.
I'm embarrassed to say this, but as a resident for 25 years, I don't know where Slate Canyon is. Are you talking about Rock Canyon?
No.
We love Rock Canyon, but it's the most visited canyon.
Yeah.
Slate Canyon is south of the Utah State Mental Hospital. And this canyon loops back around and comes out Rock Canyon. So you can hike from one canyon to the next and come out.
Sorry, I really
Yeah.
Never know.
It also provides access on
Just what do you mean by Slate Canyon 2 and 3?
Those are debris basins marked by the Stormwater Public Works Engineering Division. Okay, so that's the background. If you want to share with your neighbors and any projects that you know, we'd be happy to know about them, and we appreciate your involvement. And one of our other partners this year is Provo City Library, asked if they could join with us, and they're bringing their outreach van, and they're promoting for the month of April, Discover Nature in the library, and they're asking people to come and meet up with them in Slate Canyon. So every year we have an educational component as well as the service project component. And we have a fleet of BYU professors and graduate students who come to help people learn about the things that they can find in Slate Canyon. The insects, the flowers. We could have George Hanley tell his story about seeing Bunting, but we won't take time. But we hope that there's something you know about in the neighborhoods, you'll let us know. Yes. Thank you, Kristina. This is a great project. I encourage you to talk to your neighbors about it. Do what you can. Like Kristina said, if our storm drains are already plugged, when that runoff comes in the spring, it's going to cause problems. And I know from Provo City's told us that they've been out cleaning storm drains already. You might have seen them on I've seen them on some streets cleaning the storm drains. So they are preparing for the runoff this spring, but we needed help. We need to be good citizens and make sure that we're not throwing grass clippings and twigs and things like that into the storm drain that then plugs the grates. But thank you, Kristina. Please get involved. If you have more questions, Kristina can answer that. We're running short on time, but we do have time for some public questions or comments. If you have any of those, either online or in the room, just raise your hand. We'll give you 2 minutes. We ask that you keep to those 2 minutes, and please state your name and what area you're from so we can get that information down.
Hi, Ty Lagerberg from Foothills area. I'm also a member of the HOA board. The question I had was with Scott tonight, a lot of it about the Foothill Trails Park that has never happened yet. But I don't know if you have it in your area. We have a lot of homeless now going up 300 north, up the hill and camping up in that area above the homes. Once it gets dry, it's going to be very dangerous. My biggest question was, you mentioned they mentioned the master plan for the State Street area. Is there a master plan for each of our areas?
Get into you.
Yeah.
We'll let our city council member speak to that.
Yeah, so there's different levels of plans. There's a general plan for the whole city, and that's the one ring to rule them all. That's the umbrella. And then nested under that are a lot of different plans, including a transportation master plan, and we're working on a sustainability plan. And then there's geographically different neighborhood plans, and some of them are just one neighborhood, some of them are a handful of neighborhoods. And so the Southeast area plan has a handful of neighborhoods. And that's what Bill Pepperoni referenced as being the guiding document for how South State Street would grow and develop. So when I came on the council, I was worried. I thought, there's just a lot of multifamily homes going in right between State Street and the railroad tracks. And that's a state highway. the railroad tracks? Are we creating livable spaces where people want to stay and invest and can build a life there? Or are we sending children into a death trap when they have to cross the street to get to the elementary school? What I learned is that the mold was set, the die was cast, right? And so because of that plan, that's how developers in the city were building. So that's where a lot of that comes from. But there's positive things like promoting more walkability in that area, trying to slow some of the speeds on South State Street. You know how on the east side it has like a 10-foot sidewalk? That should continue further north and south. So different things like that. But there are other parts of town like downtown, northeast areas, West Provo. Before I was on the council, I worked on the West Provo plan. And so all of those are subsets of the general plan. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much.
Foothills doesn't have one yet, I don't believe, but there's multiple neighborhoods that do not, but the goal is to get them done.
One thing we discovered in the documents for the neighborhood when it was developed is this, when I mentioned the park, the Foothill Trails Park, it gave the city 10 years to build it. If it wasn't built within 10 years, then the ownership basically reverted back to the HOA. We don't really want it to manage it, but we just need to work with somebody. How do we get that back into the city's ball game? And can we get some improvements up there? And the homeless out.
So the homeless out, again, I'm gonna remind you that the city can't do anything about a situation that they're not aware of. I know I was preparing for Ragnar a couple years ago and I was running Slate Canyon. Like I'd run up, I'd come down, I'd run up, I'd come down, I'd run up just to get used to doing hills. And I was passing a homeless encampment and I was running kind of at dusk and it started getting dark and it made me a little uneasy. And I called the city and I'm like, is there anything we can do? Next thing I knew, they had come through and taken care of that issue. If you will talk to your city reps, the city council members, and I actually just called the non-emergency police number and talked to them, and they did come out and they took care of the issue. So I encourage you to be vocal about not only the issues, but the needs, such as this park. I think what Kristina and her group has done with the Slate Canyon could be replicated in the Foothills neighborhood. Get people involved in cleaning that up, and that helps move those potential park areas up the, up the priority list with Provo Parks. But also talk to Provo Parks. I find them to be, I haven't had any since, I've only been chair since January, but I've had great conversations with people in each department here at the city, and I think they really do try to do the best that they can for the citizens of Provo. And so have conversations, email them, and let them know what your concerns are and what you can do. But in Kristina's group, Slate Canyon Day is a great model to follow to get some community behind that Foothills neighborhood. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm George Hanley. I'm the District 2 council member, and Shannon and I just want to clarify something about the district boundaries that might be a little worrisome or confusing. We did have to redistrict the city a while ago, and it resulted in a map that expanded my current council 2 district to include all of the southeast. That goes all the way down to the southeast corner of the city. And unfortunately, that meant that Shannon Ellsworth was essentially drawn out of her district. So she will not be able to run for her seat next year.
What is this about, George?
Well, what I want to clarify is that if you're wondering, Shannon and I have a great relationship. I've lived in the southeast of Provo before I lived in the Tree Streets. I lived right near Slate Canyon. We both take representing the southeast of Provo very seriously. I just want you to understand that when Shannon shifts out of that position and District 2 technically is then in my representational area, I will continue to try to represent the southeast of Provo with everything I have. So but Shannon and I are happy to always answer any questions you have about that part of town. But anyway, I don't know if I was just trying to, because people have been confused about what happened when the district boundaries got redrawn. So
I still represent District 3 from 820 north to
Exactly.
the south.
Yeah.
So the Foothills neighborhood is part of the area I currently represent.
does that make sense? But after January 1st of 2024, the District 2 will be what it's been showing up on the maps here. So
Closer to that.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions online?
No.
No? Anybody else in the room have a question or a comment, concern? If not, then we will go ahead and adjourn. Again, I'm encouraging you to get involved in your neighborhoods. Get involved on Slate Canyon Day if you can, and please come April 20th. We will have people from the city, and we're going to be addressing the Slate Canyon issue, the Slate Canyon Drive issue, I should say, the road. So,
Chair Hall,
yes, sorry.
just mention one little thing. I'm gonna share my screen really quick. I just wanted to make sure people are aware that when you go, hopefully everyone knows how to get on the Neighborhood District Program website. So it's just on the Provo City website. And then if you go down to the calendar and you click on today's date where it says Neighborhood District 2 meeting, that's where I got that agenda that I had brought up. And here, if you click on these with the green words, that's going to be that video that Mayor Kaufusi showed. This is going to be that police report. We have some other reports, how many parking tickets were given on Slate Canyon Drive. Some other information we didn't get to, that Slate Canyon Saturday, that slideshow is all here. So it's all online. So if you missed it tonight, just get online. It's all there, and that will continue to be there just on that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. So we'll adjourn. Hopefully we will see you all back here April 20th. Appreciate your time and that you've taken out of your day to come be with us.